A man who works as a basketball talent scout gets fired and has to find a way to keep making a living doing what he loves most. In this video, I'll summarize hustle. This man is Stanley Beren, a talent scout who works for the NBA team, the Philadelphia 76ers. Stanley spends most of his time traveling and observing players who have the potential to become stars. Stanley is excited because his boss has promised him the position of assistant coach, something he has dreamed about for years, if he can find a good player. His boss is Rex Merrick, an older man whose children, Vince and Kat, also work for the organization. Rex has always trusted Stanley, almost more than his own son, who does whatever he can to get in Stanley's way. The opposite is true of Kat, who gets along very well with him. Grateful for the opportunity Rex is giving him, Stanley tells his wife Teresa and begins the search for a promising player to sign. However, Rex suddenly dies, and his son Vince takes over the organization, sidelining his sister Kat, who now has fewer responsibilities. This crushes Stanley's dream of becoming a coach for the Sixers, as Vince demotes him back to being a talent scout. 3 months later, Stanley travels to Spain, where by chance he sees a basketball prodigy playing on a street court. The young man earns some money betting against local players, and he's pretty good at it. Stanley immediately sets his eyes on him and tries to approach, but the kid gets on a bus. Stanley manages to catch up and uses his phone's translator to compliment the young man, which makes the player think Stanley is hitting on him, so he walks away. But Stanley, not willing to let the opportunity of a lifetime slip away, finds out where the kid lives. When he arrives, he introduces himself. Although the young man is initially suspicious, he eventually invites Stanley into his home. There, the young man, Bo Cruz, lives with his mother, Paula, and his young daughter. He tells Stanley that he's been working in construction for years to support his daughter, whom he had at a young age. Paula, realizing this could be the opportunity of a lifetime for her son, explains that Bo was once about to be signed by a major team, but had to give up his dream when he found out he was going to be a father. Stanley promises them that if Bo travels with him to Philadelphia, he could make it to the NBA and become a star, earning lots of money. So Bo agrees and travels with Stanley. On the plane, Stanley gives Bo his seat so he can travel a little more comfortably. When they arrive at the airport, the 76ers lawyer tells Stanley that Bo has a criminal record due to a past fight, something that complicates his stay in the US, since even a minor offense could get him deported from the country. Once they arrive and the young man gets settled, Stanley starts to notice that Bo has very bad eating habits and is a bit of a spender, things Stanley knows he'll have to help him improve. He presents Bo to his superiors and tries to convince them that this is the star they've been looking for. However, the game doesn't go as Stanley expected. Bo doesn't perform well due to the immense pressure on him. This plays perfectly into Vince's hands, who tells Stanley he made a mistake bringing Bo and that he doesn't trust him. He also tells Stanley that the next day, he'll be sent off again to travel the world in search of a new star. Stanley then decides to resign and bet everything on Bo's talent. The talent he knows is there. Bo is frustrated and nearly ready to give up, but a conversation with Stanley makes him rethink things. Stanley tells him he can't quit at the first sign of trouble, subtly pointing out Bo's confidence issues and how Stanley believes in him more than he believes in himself. Stanley begins pushing Bo to train relentlessly, making him run every night and practice like there's no tomorrow. All without telling him one small detail. They no longer have the support of the Sixers. They're doing this on their own. Stanley begins paying all of Bo's expenses so he can focus solely on training. This causes tension with Stanley's wife, who doesn't agree with her husband quitting his job and betting everything on a young man who might not even succeed. Even so, she decides to help however she can and prepares Bo's weekly meals to cut his costs and support his diet. During one of their training sessions, Stanley tells Bo that he once went to jail for 6 months after crashing a car while driving drunk with his friend Leon, which left him with a scar on his hand. Weeks go by, and Bo keeps training hard, not only to achieve his goal, but also to not let his now friend Stanley down. Over time, a genuine friendship forms between Stanley and Bo, and the young man even meets Stanley's wife and daughter. However, during a family dinner Bo is invited to, Stanley gets a call from a contact who was supposed to help get Bo into a team. The contact tells him that Vince went on live TV saying he doesn't trust Bo due to his past assault record. Bo finds out that Stanley lied to him and that there is no team backing him. He storms out, and when Stanley follows him, they nearly get into a fight. Stanley explains the entire situation and says that he's been in this business a long time, and that together, they can make it to the NBA. Still, Stanley is desperate. Without his contacts, who now seem to have turned their backs on him, reaching their goal feels impossible. That's when his daughter gives him an idea. Showcase Bo at smaller tournaments so that, thanks to the power of social media, people start to notice him. This works. Even sports journalists begin to take interest, and slowly, public excitement around Bo starts to grow. To further motivate him, Stanley surprises Bo by flying in his daughter and his mother to visit him. Two people he hasn't seen in a long time. Paula tells him she sees how much he's improved and how motivated he is to chase his dream. She and his daughter attend a game that Stanley arranged, where lots of important people are watching. Bo knows what's at stake and gives it his all. But during the game, a rival player who feels threatened by Bo's rising popularity starts provoking and mocking him, especially making fun of his daughter. Bo reacts, and a confrontation erupts, tarnishing his image in front of everyone. The same press that lifted him up now tears him down, calling him violent. Stanley realizes everything may be lost. The damage to Bo's image seems irreversible. Bo talks to his mother and tells her he's going back to Spain. But Paula insists she's never seen him so driven, and tells him that even if he stops playing, he should never lose touch with the man who gave him the greatest opportunity of his life. Stanley accompanies Bo to the airport, regretting what could have been. Bo apologizes for messing things up and promises to pay him back every cent. Stanley tells him it's not necessary, that these have been the best months of his life. Just as they say goodbye, Stanley gets a call from his friend Leon, who still has connections and has secured a last-minute game for Bo, a huge opportunity. Stanley runs to find Bo, and together they make it to the court. There, Stanley meets Kat, who tells him she now has more power in the company after her brother's many mistakes. A few months later, Stanley is attending an NBA game. From afar, he spots Bo, now a professional NBA player, but not with the Sixers. He's playing for the Celtics. Bo has even tattooed one of Stanley's motivational phrases on his body and has achieved his dream. Just like Stanley, who finally became the Sixers' assistant coach and is now about to face Bo on the court.